Welcome to Story Ideas on the Fly. We take an idea out of the hat and try to develop into a story. I look so excited. I'm tired.
The chosen wielders of 5 legendary weapons must battle to the death for the throne, but none of them want to be king.
Okay.
So we're
Okay, so none of them want to be king, but if you fail, you're gonna die, so...
They must battle to the death. That's
all right.
intense. That doesn't leave a lot of good options for any of them.
It sounds like fantasy. Okay. So what do we do with it?
Okay, so there are 5 legendary weapons,
Mm-hmm.
and let's see. There's probably a current void in the throne.
Yes. Now, is this fantasy or is
Fantasy
it,
is likely, because that's where you have the most legendary weapons things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
you could go a little sci-fi if you wanted.
You could do this sci-fi
do a
and have
sci-fi.
legendary weapons somehow in a sci-fi world. So what do we want to do? Do we want to go sci-fi or fantasy?
I like just basic fantasy, but
basic
I mean, you
fantasy
can
sounds
adapt just about any story to a different genre if you really want.
Okay, so let's go.
I mean, the
stick with
difference between
fantasy.
sci-fi and fantasy is really just, do we have an explanation for how magic works?
There you go.
Right.
Or green
Are they
light.
using swords or lightsabers?
Pretty much.
Do the people have green skin?
Right. Do they blast magic or do they, blast guns?
Green skin is actually just as often in fantasy as it is in sci-fi.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
okay.
true. Orcs, goblins.
Fair enough.
Right.
Okay.
The difference between sci-fi and fantasy is legitimately just the textures.
Yeah, do you go ooga booga or do you go boop?
Could your 5 legendary weapons and your 5 chosen wielders come from 5 different races?
Ooh, I like that idea.
So you have the orc champion versus the elf champion versus the
what if your kingdom is actually instead of just like a kingdom, an empire, where 400 years ago or 1,000 years ago, however long ago it was, something happened, and basically this one group united all 5 of these races under one empire, and so now and they've kind of been governing everything and keeping all the peace, but the line that actually ran it ran out.
Okay.
All died off.
So they're taking those powerful warriors from the different clans in order to decide to.
And so without that one group who was actually keeping the peace between everyone, suddenly everyone wants to say, "Oh, we should definitely be in power."
Did they die out or did someone murder them?
Or could this be something where they traditionally battle every time the king dies, they battle to decide a new successor, so that there is, or every
and then if
couple
your
of
people
decades.
die, you pass your weapon down to somebody else in your kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So every single time there's a fight for the king, 4 people die and 1 people live. One person. Yes, 1 person lives.
Well, that way you don't have succession issues.
Right.
Because if all the contestants die except for 1, then nobody says, well, it wasn't a fair fight and I really won and you should have, and the refs called it wrong or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone who's ever been in sports or tournaments knows that
the
happens.
Refs call things wrong a lot.
There's a problem with that, though. If you're trying to keep peace between different peoples, why are you killing 4 of them?
Because people are weird.
Good point. People are kind of dumb sometimes.
Okay.
I think they figure it's better to have one champion die than to go to war and have lots of people die.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 1 champion per
kingdom.
I think it would be better. It just makes more sense to me if this isn't a regular thing where it's more of a the entire royal family has died and so we don't know, and now everyone's trying to grab for power. Because if it's to keep peace between these 5 groups, these 5 nations, then having them compete with each other to determine the next ruler, what you really want is an outsider who's not partisan to any of the kingdoms that they united to create this empire. So yes, we don't actually come from any of the kingdoms technically,
Yeah.
and so that's why we are qualified to rule over all 5 because we will be fair.
Yeah, but an outsider also doesn't have skin in the game the same way someone in the 5 races.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
I
who
could see it
are
as rare, but it does happen.
Yes.
these
Anytime
5
there's a question
races
of
and
succession.
who are these 5 races and what are the 5 weapons?
Well, I was thinking orcs, elves, dwarves, humans, and I don't know what the 5th race idea would be.
I don't know, pixies, goblins. We could have some fun with this. It doesn't all have to be
Beholders.
standards.
We don't have to go with the standard types
Yeah,
of
beholders.
elves, orcs,
True.
dwarves.
Yeah, so the 5th race would be beholders. I like this idea. Let's go with that.
How tough are beholders?
Pretty tough.
Challenge
Okay.
rating 12, I think.
Okay, let's try to keep them on
D&D reference if you're
similar
not a D&D
levels.
player.
Okay.
If we want to have a half dragon race or we want to have some weird races, that's
Beast folk.
fine.
I
yeah, that works.
tend
Beast folk's
to
cool.
I tend to like to create new races. We could do
Yeah.
We could just readapt all the others. I mean, originally dwarves were actually arguably insects.
so okay.
No, originally dwarves were
Okay.
just kind of
let's
stone
let's
statue smith things.
let's keep
Yeah.
All right.
But they
On
were originally
topic,
cut
let's-
from
Okay, well,
insects,
you've got
so
five
could-
five kingdoms, 5
5
races.
races. Because one thing you want is if you're going to have this be an actual battle, where it says must battle to the death, but the term battle can mean a lot of things. A battle could be, we're just getting in an arena with a
Free for
a
all
melee.
fight to the death.
Melee, everyone fight, last one standing wins.
But you could also have a series of contests where, people can get advantages or disadvantages and buy up
it could also be
points or
something where it's a battle, they must battle to the death, but it could be set more in you're thrown in the forest and whoever comes out alive in 3 days,
Okay.
into some.
Or you have
Does that
to all
mean that
battle
all
a
5
beast.
of them actually want to just stop us run away in the forest and not have to deal with any of this stuff?
and let the
It
beast
said that
about it.
none of
Well,
them
no,
wanted to be
They may
king.
not have the option of doing that. So why do all 5 not want to be king? Are there individual reasons, or is there an actual reason not that nobody wants to be king?
I think there needs to be, there could be individual reasons too, but
Mhm.
I think there needs to be some big bad evil dude. Okay? Because you got to
That
have
is
a big
usually a
bad
good
evil
idea.
guy, and maybe the line of kings has been very short lived because they keep somehow dying of natural consequences, because it's a very natural consequence to die from a dagger through your heart.
Yep.
I don't know. That's
Natural
kind of the
causes.
natural things to do, right?
Yep.
Well, most of the characters I make actually wouldn't naturally die from that.
Okay, you'd like to
You're
overpower
weird.
characters.
No, it's okay.
No, I just like making characters I can beat up.
Yes.
All
I
right.
like making the kind of characters that you can cut off their head and they'll survive.
Okay, that's a little. I like to put in good healers. All right.
Yes.
So,
Okay,
what
either
are
way.
the 5 weapons? Let's think of weapons. If we're
Axe,
thinking medieval,
hammer, an axe, war hammer, a sword, a bow,
a sword,
and staff. Done.
and staff. Okay, of these things, though, you put a staff against the battle axe, and that staff is not holding its own.
Not doing super
Okay.
It says
Well,
the
that's
legendary
the
weapon.
5
They're all
weapons.
magical.
They were just the first 5 weapons that came to my head.
If we
Okay.
go, I mean, we could actually
Could
do
have a
some great stuff.
magical
For
flail
example,
or a
have you heard about Sung Wukong's staff from the
Okay,
original mythology?
But what if
That thing weighed literal tons, and it could expand to shrink to whatever
That
size
thing might
you
be more
wanted.
powerful.
I was gonna say that's what I want to see. I want to see these things be somehow magical. So this staff can expand. This staff can shrink. This staff can shoot
Or it's just a
fire
wizard
or
staff.
ice or something like that. So
Mhm.
it's a staff, but it has some magical abilities.
Since I'm putting it,
The-
since mine knows I put the staff with the beast folk, I like the idea of ripping off Sun Wukong personally.
If you've got the bow and arrows,
Uh-huh.
you could make them too magical arrows. They don't have
Lightning
to do the same
arrows.
thing. With
Yeah.
they could do lightning, or they could.
Yeah,
do
I thought that was a
something-
given.
Yeah.
Or they could just do something like, they are attracted to their target. So they seldom ever miss.
Or
Are
the
we getting
quiver
back
never
to an
runs
elf?
out.
Elves
don't
are
know.
supposed to never be able to miss anyway.
The
Depends
quiver
on
never
your,
runs
uh,
out.
The thing you
Depends
need is
on the
extra
story.
power.
Yes,
Right.
that's the thing you need. Which I think that you could just say that the bow just acts as if it has different draw strengths depending on whether you're drawing it or if you're the arrow.
All right.
There
Yeah,
you
to the
go.
person drawing it, it feels like it has a draw strength of like, I don't know, 10 pounds. To the arrow, it feels like it has about 10,000 pounds.
Okay.
Something like
So
that.
what would be magical? What abilities would this sword have? And do we want to give like one fire, one electricity, one
No, I would
lightning,
just-
one ice, one, and give them different things like that? But I'd like to see some magic associated with each one. Because one thing, if you get, a big orc, or big orc, it's an elf and an orc and a dwarf, a big orc. Okay, we've got this new race. They're called dwarfs. Okay,
We could do
they're
something like a
big
shadow
and
blade.
huge, but they're also live underground and are really good at making.
Craftsmanship.
All right,
Okay, so dwarves.
but big ones.
Yeah,
but
so
they're
dwarves.
But they're big
That's
and
dwarves.
So
But they have tusk and are green.
Okay,
Yeah, they're-
so dwarves?
Dwarves that look like
Dwarves.
orcs.
Yeah, dwarves.
Okay.
okay. Too little.
So
Where could we
So because the thing
Okay.
though is if you get okay, I'm this little pixie, and you
Mhm.
get the pixie up against an orc, the fight is not fair. We've got
No.
a pixie versus sprite. Not all your races are going to be big, huge races. Big, huge,
No, that's orcs.
right.
Yeah.
So you're
If
gonna
your
have
pixie wielded a sword that could cut through anything, though,
right.
and it gave the pixie extra speed, which pixies tend to be fast anyway, and be hard to hit, you could actually be quite formidable even as a little pixie.
Here's the thing. We don't have pixies on this list, but if you were to add pixies to this list, they'd actually be more terrifying than any of the other races.
Yes!
Why?
Well, some of it
Because
depends.
they're
Can't
small
hit 'em.
and they're fast. You have
Pixies
a
are
giant
usually
hammer.
faster
What do you
than
do?
humans.
Think
I
of
hit him with the fly swatter.
Think you're
Mom,
Mom?
are faster than humans.
Mom, how easy is it to hit a fly with a fly swatter?
Oh, I'm pretty good at it. Now those stupid little, gnats, little fruit flies, those things get hard.
Yes.
Now imagine if those flies,
Spray 'em with water.
one, didn't land, and two, could zoom by you and instantly kill you.
Okay, you do like I do with the stupid wasp. You spray them with a water bottle and hit them with a fly swatter.
Wasps are
Okay.
slow.
They're faster than I am, but you spray them with a water bottle. Anything with
They're
wings.
saying
no,
if pixies are
pixies
fast
are
enough,
usually
they can,
moving
if
around like
pixies
this.
are fast enough and can cut enough,
Yeah.
then they have
All
they
right.
can be formidable.
Okay.
But at any
Terrifying.
rate,
Okay, so we've got 5 races.
Regardless
we've got
of which
5
races and
magic
weapons.
Well, yeah.
Now let's work on
my
the
big
plot.
questions, are who's the big bad evil guy in all of this, and why do the 5 heroes not want to fight?
A good reason why people don't want to be king. Because I think being king comes with a responsibility, but there should be some, not official curse, but some kind of curse associated with it. Some
Mhm.
kind of, what is going to happen if they
I don't know.
become
One
king?
of the things I kind of like is that the king's responsibility is to keep peace between these 5 nations, but none of them like each other. And so basically being a king isn't so much a position of power, but a position of everyone calm down.
Ooh, another thing we
Everybody
could
hates
do.
you.
The queen is already chosen. Whoever becomes king, whoever wins this must marry her.
The queen.
And because the former king, the line of kings ran out because they don't do male succession, and so the girl is going to the daughter, the one last that's left, is going to automatically become
The
queen.
queen.
And then he
And
says something
she
like, she's
is a shrew.
That could be fun. That could be fun. So,
So then we get a little taming of the shrew type thing in here.
okay, so the princess is nobody wants to marry the princess. So
Okay.
our 5 got men. So our 5 contestants are all men, I assume.
Yes,
Mhm.
because they have to
Awesome.
marry the princess.
Yes.
Oh, well,
Alright.
that completely ruins half the ideas I had.
Well, we don't
No,
have
I
to
think
go
it'll
that
be
way.
fun. We don't have to.
If you
but I
want
do
to, you have
think it
another
would be
reason
fun.
why they all don't want to be king.
Well, I was kind of leaning more towards the being the king's a thankless job, It's like
Yeah.
if you were told I'm going to pay you $10 a day to go get beat up by a bunch of people, would you
but
take the job?
kings are going to get paid well.
Okay, yeah.
They're
Yes,
going to
but
live
they're
in a
not
castle. They're going to
necessarily
have
going
servants.
to. But it's still going to be a very tough
But-
job.
Or the
Tough
other
and
way,
thankless
if you
job.
want to go a different way and not do the shrew, you could
Kinda
go.
do like the princess.
I kind of do too.
Well, it's
But-
cool, but then I can't have any of the contestants be girls.
Okay, but then
Fair
the
enough.
other thing you could do, I just had an idea. What was it? Think. Is
Have a curse.
you could have a prophecy about the future king. That wields, the
Or a
future
curse.
king. Yeah,
The
but
curse
but
over the kingdom
yes,
too.
you could have
But
a
yeah, either
prophecy
way.
about the future king who wields the what do they call these, the legendary
True.
weapon, and some horrendous thing he's gonna have to face. So no, none of them want to do it. I'm not facing that.
Well,
Yeah.
it's also a battle to the death, though, so you're gonna die either way.
Yeah,
Right,
I
so you've got to try to
it
win.
may not even
Which
be
means
a
that
matter of the battle to the death. It may be that they're worried because they're and I don't think
Or
any
you
of
could
them
have
are going to
so
be
the thing is
suicidal.
that
But
it's
at
a
the same
phase worse
time,
than death.
if you become the king and now your family's dragged into the fight and you're going to suffer this horrendous fate, there might be people who are going, yeah, I might rather.
Now, unless
I might rather die.
okay, hold on. Unless we have got one good legendary weapon wielder and the other four are really evil, I don't want to see 4 of these 5 people die.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So
No.
we're going to have to find a way
for them not to
for
kill
them
each
not
other.
to have
Yes.
to have a battle to the death.
Yes.
Well, I
Okay.
think they're officially competing to the death with each other, but I think what ends up happening is they work together, and this is where you need to pull in a main villain.
Mhm.
And then the end solution would be basically
Could your villain be the one hosting this game? The one who's
that's a good way to do it.
Probably.
the one who is arranging for this game,
Because he wants to kill off the.
the legendary warriors.
Now, in what position would he be in to be one declaring the games?
Probably counselor.
management, like some
Counselor
kind of
makes sense.
bureaucrat manager. I just
Yeah, he could be if it's
I
fantasy.
just manage the king's affairs.
Yes,
yeah.
if it's fantasy, he's a king's counselor.
Mm-hmm.
Why doesn't he step up though and say, "Well, the line is dead, so I'm now going to take over."
Well,
I'll marry
it could
the
be a thing
shrew."
about how there could be a cultural thing about the legendary weapons where if people basically the authority granted by having a legendary weapon automatically makes people respect you, and so
Far more than they
it's-
respect a counselor.
yeah, so nobody will actually accept a king unless he is either A, the direct descendant of the previous king, or B, a legendary weapon user. And so it's like, well, I have to put one of the legendary weapon users on the throne, but I don't really like them. They're getting in my way. People respect them more than me. Because, I don't know, because these weapons, they won't choose me because apparently I have some kind of thing like a black heart. I don't get that whole thing, but...
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
I'm
it's so overrated.
It's
Yeah.
nice if your 5 weapons users are good guys.
Yeah, well, I like the idea
Just
of the
thinking
weapon
for a fun
specifically
five-man
choosing
band.
people. That's kind of what
Mhm.
one of the first things I thought of when I read this, and it's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense for this case.
Mhm.
And so if your weapons do choose people, that
Because
means
then
that these
these
aren't
people
just
didn't
normal
volunteer.
people. These are the chosen of respected artifacts.
Yes.
Yep, that would work.
So that makes
Even though they could be ordinary people from.
they could have
Yeah.
been once ordinary
Okay.
people, but this is like it's like saying this: if you're going around in a fantasy world, and then the god of the world comes in and says, "That farm boy right there, yeah, he's going to save the world, and he's super awesome." Suddenly, that guy is super awesome because he's the chosen one.
Okay, guys. So we don't run too long.
Sorry.
I think there needs to be a lot of back history and why is this
Yeah.
tournament like this going to be done. There needs to be a lot of back history. But let's hit really quickly. Who's our hero?
The human.
I think our hero. I think one of these legendary weapons possibly was belonged to the king that died,
Mhm.
and it chose somebody. Obviously the counselor thought, "Oh, this king died. I'll get it. I'm his trusted counselor." He may have even aided in the king's death.
Yeah.
But then the weapon didn't choose him. Yeah. And so
In
somebody
fact, the
else
weapon may
chose
have
it.
flatly rejected him.
Right. So now you've got this new guy with the weapon going into this battle.
Yeah.
He would make a good hero.
Mm-hmm. I
And
like that.
it could be anyone in the kingdom that it goes to. And he's like, no, this just doesn't work. And
Yeah.
now you've got, if you want to make a
Also,
girl,
he's one of the cooks in the castle.
Oh, could be a cook in the castle.
if
That could be
it
fun.
was if I was making the shrew, okay, if I'm going
The
with the shrew, the
princess?
princess, and so all these guys are guys, I would have him tame the shrew.
Yeah.
If
Well, because she
if
doesn't
not,
necessarily have to be a truly horrible princess,
No.
but there can be a reason that she could be very abrasive because she's been a princess all her life, and her father just got murdered, and they've been dealing
and
with
she
a lot of.
could be being threatened by this counselor, and you
So
could have things.
she could have had a lot on her plate
Yeah, but I
and just
personally
be.
like the idea of having it so you just
Yeah.
have boys and girls be the
Yeah,
legendary weapon
and-
users, and then just have them get together with the elf.
Right, and then you have
You can do that too.
and then you have. That's what I was gonna say. The other way is to say,
or the
the
pixie.
elf
make
with the
some.
lightning bow, because I like the idea of a lightning bow for some reason, and the guy with a shadow sword, because I like the idea of a shadow sword for some
Really,
reason.
I was going with a completely different direction with that, but whatever.
All right.
I just wrote down
So,
random ideas
a
for
villain. Let's
what
make
their
sure we've
powers
got a
yes.
good,
were.
strong villain. Our
Okay.
villain wants to take over the kingdom.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And so the big
couldn't
thing,
do
the big
that
threat
through-
he has though is that as long as there are legendary weapon users, they will always have more authority than him in the minds
Which
of the
is
people.
one of the reasons he's doing the battle to the death. Actually, what if his plan is to make sure they all die?
Yes.
Yes.
Make sure they all die. In fact, what if he's planning something big enough to have the 5 legendary weapons destroyed?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
That
the
would be
weapons were
good.
destroyed. We just couldn't save them, and now the weapons are gone.
Oh,
and
yeah,
gonna
range a
leave
battle
us
to the
everywhere.
death and then stage some kind of big monster attack.
Yeah.
The whole
Bribe a dragon.
everybody's going to the intrigue of we're all going to fight for the crown. That's fun to write. That's
Yeah.
really fun to write. I've done it before,
It is fun. It is
The whole
cool.
Crown
I want to
series.
get to So I'm
So-
like, this could be fun.
It could be fun.
But you could have a lot of. He could have things. He could have something unexpectedly happen that destroys not just the wielders but the weapons themselves, and that could be his plan to get rid of all of them.
Okay, so I think we've got a villain. We've got a basic idea of the plot, the setting, the characters. This would take a lot more development.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
one thing when
Needs lots
writing
more hashing out.
intrigues, you really have to know all your
Everything.
characters
Everything
and
going
worlds
on.
and everything inside
Yeah, that's
out.
fair.
So there's a lot more to do, but I think it's a good workable idea. I think it'd be fun to write. I've written these.
I was
Let's
gonna
all
say, who wants
fight
to
for
write
the crown.
this? I think
So,
there are a few who would enjoy
Joseph
that.
over here is going, yeah.
I'd write it,
actually
but I'd
have
write it
some
very
ideas for
differently
this.
from you.
Huh?
I'd write it, but I'd write it very differently from you.
I think we'd
Yes.
all write it differently,
Oh,
but I think
obviously.
we'd all
Well,
have
like
fun
half the
writing this.
ideas that Mom has come up with, I've been specifically like, but that conflicts with this idea that I've had.
That's right. Well, that's the
That's
beauty
okay.
of things like this. There have been how many "Let's all fight for the crown" stories. What makes it good isn't whether it's a fight for the crown story or not. It's who are your characters? How do they interplay? What's the intrigues? Those are
And
the
your
things that
voice
make it
as
good.
an author
Yes.
that
So,
makes it unique.
You're what makes it good.
If Joseph writes it, it will have, he might get together with the dragon at the end, right?
It was just a gag in one episode, guys.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Well, what would you like to see in this story? How would you do it?
Yeah, we would love to hear what you think. Put your comments in the comment section. And don't forget to give us prompts for our hat. We are so excited that our hat is full of contributed ideas. We'll see you next time.